Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Okay, I think you need a sheet. Do you know where the sheets are for Jaya Radha Madhava? In the door? In the door. That door. Yeah, just get a couple of those for this family here. I have a feeling you don't know the song. I'll stop. I'll wait. Hare Krishna. No, actually, it's okay. They fixed it. They fixed it, yeah. Put in a new door closer. If you look, you can see it's new. How are we doing there, Suresh? Yeah, yeah. Yes. The one that's not in the Shringa Dev. Good. Well, this one will come later. Yeah, give me that. Give it out. Yeah. Over there. Here, give me that. Here. Give one to you and your wife and that lady there. Thanks. Yeah, those we can use later. Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Mr. Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavadgita Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of February 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 240. And this is the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna. Oh, wait a minute. No. Sorry. I think the... Yes, and the marker was in the wrong place. Okay, I'll give it to you in a minute. Yeah, it was wrong. Well, we have to recalibrate. We'll start over. Let's see. Okay, so we read for 15 for sure, 14 and 15, which go together. And we didn't read 16. We're on page 154. 154. I'm sorry about that. We'll start over. Hare Krishna. Okay. Okay, on this 19th day of February 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on page 154, which is chapter 3, entitled Karma Yoga, and it's text number 16. Evam babartitam chakram nanuvartayatihiya agayur indriyaramo mogang parta sajivati evam pavartitam chakram nanuvartayatihiya agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati evam pavartitam chakram nanuvartayati yaha agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati. Parashakti. Evam pavartitam chakram nanavartayati. Hold on. She's leading, and then you respond to her. Go ahead. Agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati. Evam pavartitam chakram nanavartayati agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati. Go ahead, you can lead. Evam pavartitam chakram nanavartayati yaha agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati. You want to try? Evam pavartitam chakram nanavartayati agayur indriyaramo moghang parta sajivati. Okay. Evam, thus, pavartitam, established by the Vedas, chakram, cycle, does not, anuvartayati, adopt, iha, in this life, yaha, one who, paga ayuhu, whose life is full of sins, indriya aramaha, satisfied in sense gratification, mogham, uselessly, parta, O son of Prita, Arjun, saha, he, jivati, lives. My dear Arjun, one who does not follow in human life the cycle of sacrifice thus established by the Vedas certainly leads a life full of sin. Living only for the satisfaction of the senses, such a person lives in vain. Purport. The Mammonist philosophy, work very hard and enjoy sense gratification, is condemned herein by the Lord. Therefore, for those who want to enjoy this material world the above-mentioned cycle of performing yajnas is absolutely necessary. One who does not follow such regulations is living a very risky life, being condemned more and more. By nature's law, this human form of life is specifically meant for self-realization in either of the three ways, namely karma yoga, jnana yoga, or bhakti yoga. There is no necessity of rigidly following the performances of the prescribed yajnas for the transcendentalists who are above vice and virtue. But those who are engaged in sense gratification require purification by the above-mentioned cycle of yajna performances. There are different kinds of activities. Those who are not Krishna conscious are certainly engaged in sensory consciousness. Therefore, they need to execute pious work. The yajna system is planned in such a way that sensory conscious persons may satisfy their desires without becoming entangled in the reaction of sense gratificatory work. The prosperity of the world depends not on our own efforts, but on the background arrangement of the Supreme Lord, directly carried out by the demigods. Therefore, the yajnas are directly aimed at the particular demigods mentioned in the Vedas. Indirectly, it is the practice of Krishna consciousness, because when one masters the performance of yajnas, one is sure to become Krishna conscious. But if by performing yajnas one does not become Krishna conscious, such principles are counted as only moral codes. One should not, therefore, limit his progress only to the point of moral codes, but should transcend them to attain Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this chapter is called Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga indicates linking ourselves to the Supreme through activity. And that's why it's the first of the yogas, because we're already active. We have to do something in order to just live. Krishna mentioned that at the beginning of the chapter. Nahi kaschit tanamapi jarutishchati karmakrit. It's not possible to do nothing. Even if you're sitting as quietly as possible, trying to meditate, still the mind is active. And so the idea in this in Karma Yoga is to perform the duties that we have as a different member of society, whatever it may be, but do so in such a way that the fruits, as far as possible, are given to for sacrifice. Krishna says in the ninth verse of this chapter, Yagyartart kamanon yatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. That our activity or work in this world has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu, or Yagya. Yagya is another name for Vishnu. Otherwise, work binds us to this world. So we're kind of in a bind, if you will. Because if we just live according to our instincts, according to our sensual desires, we're going to continue to be bound up by the fruits of those desires. There's this law of karma that determines our transmigration from one body to another. This is the basic principle of Vedic understanding. So that's the real problem of our lives. But where is that really taught? In a materialistic society like ourselves. We have all of these establishments of learning, big universities, but everybody's learning all kinds of techniques and understanding in relationship to this world and ways of trying to exploit it more and manipulate the world in such a way, or philosophical ideas having to do with different varieties of sense gratification, gross and subtle. But what about the teaching that helps us to extricate ourselves from the bondage of karma, the bondage of action and reaction, and actually go back to our original home in the spiritual world? That's not taught. That's why Srila Prabhupada started this institution. It really is an institution of learning. And here it says there's a certain cycle, a virtuous cycle of sacrifice. It's been described in previous verses. It said that the Lord of the creatures, it can be either Vishnu or in this case Brahma, he created this world, but along with it, he created a system of sacrifice. So that those of us who are on the human plane, we would understand that, we have a connection. We are benefited from the gifts of the sun and the water and the air and food and everything else we need to live. It doesn't come automatically. There's a huge arrangement originally created by Vishnu or Krishna, but governed by what we call demigods or devas. And they're it's just like a huge bureaucracy. Someone may come to America and think, oh, this is the land of milk and honey, whatever, But it's not long before they'll find out there's a government. There's a government there. And if they transgress the laws, then they'll be punished and they'll suffer. So the process of sacrifice is one of acknowledging the universal government so we can live in harmony with the laws of nature, the laws of God, and gradually progress towards self-realization and mukti, liberation from bondage. That's the whole point. Otherwise, here's this well-known line: Agayor indriya ramo mogang partas jivati. Aga means sin. Welcome, Rajesh. If one's life, ayu, is one of sin, meaning indriya ramo, simply dedicated to gratifying one's senses without understanding the higher powers, or trying to restrain the senses in order to transcend the bodily concept of life, that is simply a sinful life, mogham. You're wasting. It's a waste of human life. Mogham means uselessly. In other words, we may do so many different things, but if we're not progressing in our understanding of who we actually are and what our relationship is with the Supreme, then we're simply digging a bigger hole for ourselves here. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, a great avatar actually named Lord Rishabdev, he describes Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yanindriya pritaya pranoti. This word indriya priti is the same as indriya ramo. He says it's certainly true that those who are simply dedicated for enjoying the senses, indriya priti literally means sense gratification, they're mad. They're maddened. It may seem like they're sane, but they're ignoring the most important aspect of this life. And that is how to get out of it, get out of our bondage in the material life. And they perform vikarma, because generally speaking, they have no concern for the Vedic knowledge and restraint, which means restraint. Indriya Rama means that worshipping mammon, hedonism. It's a philosophy. We even had it in Charvak Muni. It's not something invented in the West, or it seems like it is. But Charvak Muni, he was an Indian in Vedic philosophy. But he was totally, enjoy as much as you can, beg, borrow, steal, get some ghee, cook some very opulent prasadam, nice chorus, enjoy like anything, because once you die, it's all over. Don't worry about it after. There's no such thing. That's the first axiom. Because if there is an afterlife in which what you've done in this life you have to pay for, good or bad, then that changes the whole calculation, doesn't it? But if you just live once, like it used to say in an old beer commercial before your time, you may remember, you only, grab as much gusto as you can, and the implication you only go around once. There's even a t-shirt, YOLO. You know about YOLO? You only live once. So what was my solution to YOLO? NOLO. You don't only live once. You live many times. That's really the bottom line. If you're absolutely convinced that you didn't live before and you won't live again, you might as well try to grab as much sense gratification as you can in this lifetime. But that's not the reality. That is the mentality of a child who has no understanding of boundaries. You grow up and soon you learn, there's boundaries in the family, there's boundaries in society, right? And you have to restrain, you have to live according to the rules set down by those who are in authority. Otherwise you suffer. It's not just if it feels good, do it. That used to be our theme of the hippie era. But the thing is, it may feel good now, but the results of that will be great suffering. Krishna says right in the Bhagavad Gita, I love this verse, it's so revolutionary. Yehi sansparjajam bhoga dukkha yonaya ebate. Your enjoyment, your sensory enjoyment, sansparjajam bhoga literally means the enjoyment that comes from the senses, contact and the absence of the senses. That is the source of your misery. Dukkha yonaya ebate. And not only is it good, adyantavanta, it has a beginning and an end. Now as eternal spirit souls, we are as eternal as Krishna is. Najayate mriyate vakadachan. It said right in the second chapter, previous chapter.
is that there's no birth, there's no death for the living entity. Arjo, Nitya, Shashvata, Yam Purana repeats in different ways. Is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and primeval. The soul is not slain, the self is not slain when the body is slain. Now this verse is practically straight out of the Upanishads. Prabhupada quotes in a purport an almost identical verse. In other words, it's a basic principle. You're not born when your body is born. You don't die when your body dies. Death and birth and old age is just for this external body. This what Prabhupada would call it the material tabernacle, which is actually, that's, you look up in the dictionary, that's one of the meanings of tabernacle. It means the external body that dies as opposed to the soul, even in the English dictionary. So the implications of that are enormous. It means that if we're simply calculating our cost and benefit and plans according to this present body, we're ignoring the reality, which is that we have a life beyond the body. So then what? Well, so what determines what situation we'll have in our next life? That's what we should ask. And it has to do with conforming to the rules of the Bhagavad Gita and this idea of sacrifice. Now, in these purports that Prabhupada wrote in previous verses, he almost always comes to the point of describing what the sacrifice for this age is. In previous ages, especially in the Treta Yuga, which is before the previous Yuga. Previous Yuga is Dwapara Yuga, when they had the means of self-realization was elaborate deity worship. We have our beautiful deity worship, our dear Radhagiridhari, and we love them dearly. But we don't have the means to offer real diamonds and jewels and rubies and silks and massive offerings of ghee prepared. This is Kali Yuga. So we have a vestige of that, which is important for us. It's important. But in Dwapara Yuga, we still have some temples, like in South India, Rameshwaram and others who date from then. Very elaborate. You can see the size and the organization. That was the means of self-realization. Everybody worshipped in the temple, and they had this wonderful, and they bring the deities out, just like they do in Jagannath Puri, And the age before that, in Treta Yuga, that was the age when the Yuga Dharma was elaborate sacrifices, you see. But in this age, we don't have the facility either for elaborate deity worship or elaborate sacrifices. So how can we perform yajna? Krishna has come, recognizing our lack of facility or ability, and he's come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his lieutenant, Lord Nityananda, whose appearance we celebrated yesterday, and taught the easiest form of yajna. You don't need any money, All you need is a little faith, and you raise your hands and you dance simply and chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and that's your sacrifice. You sacrifice a little time and a few calories, and we have prasadam at the end, so that's not even a sacrifice. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. This is the sacrifice. It's in the Shastra. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, eva kevalam kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gataranyata. When you repeat something, you're emphasizing. When you say it 3 times, you really emphasize. So he says, if you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head over unto your lotus feet bow. So that's our cycle of sacrifice in this age, especially. If we are able to perform that, and you can perform it anywhere. You don't have to perform it in the temple. In your home, Prabhupada said, you can just get together. You don't even need any instruments. Just clap together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna is so pleased by that sacrifice. It's the root of all auspiciousness in your life. Shreya Kaidava Chandrika Vatadanam. It causes the white lotus of good fortune to blossom and spread everywhere in your life and in the world. But we need to have faith in it, and we need to practice it regularly, and then everything becomes. Otherwise, Agayorindriyaramo Mogang Partasa Jivati our life will be wasting this precious human form of life. It's meant for self-realization. It's meant for detachment. Not only yajna, but also tapa, austerity. They go together. Yajna, dana, tapa. Sometimes giving charity is the biggest austerity and sacrifice. Okay, any questions on this particular verse? And we can move forward. 17. Yastvatna ratareva syad. Okay, let's begin again. Page 155, Rajesh. Yastvatna ratareva syad. Atmatriptascha manavaha. Atmanyeva santushtas. Tasya karyam na vidyate. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Purport: a person who is fully Krishna conscious and is fully satisfied by his acts in Krishna consciousness no longer has any duty to perform. Due to his being Krishna conscious, all impiety within is instantly cleansed, an effect of many, many thousands of yoga performances. By such clearing of consciousness, one becomes fully confident of his eternal position in relationship with the Supreme. His duty thus becomes self-illuminated by the grace of the Lord, and therefore he no longer has any obligations to the Supreme injunctions, to the Vedic injunctions. Such a Krishna-conscious person is no longer interested in material activities and no longer takes pleasure in material arrangements like wine, women, and similar infatuations. So here, Krishna is saying one who's already self-realized, Atma-rati. Atma-rati means taking pleasure in the self, and notice it's a capital S in the self. That means that's Krishna. One who takes pleasure in simply serving Krishna, being Krishna conscious, and that means a complete lack of absorption. Hare Krishna. Okay, he's doing pretty good so far. Takes pleasure in the self, so that obviates the need for any other sacrifice. In other words, that such a person has already come to the end of the sacrifice. The sacrifice is meant to bring us to the point of detachment from involvement in this material world. One who is fully Krishna conscious means one who is living at every moment in the mood of service to Krishna and is fully ecstatic in that service, because that's what that does. Then he doesn't have any danger of being entangled in this material world. And so he has no further duties to perform other than those which involve his cycle of service to the Lord and his sacrifice for the Lord. This is the point here. That the karma yoga is meant to bring us through jnana yoga to bhakti yoga and to the end. If you're already there, you don't have to worry about the rules and regulations of karma yoga. You're already following them automatically by following the rules and regulations of bhakti. So this is Krishna's putting this in here to put everything into perspective. That's what this verse is about. But generally, we're not at that point. So there's so many activities we need to perform, and gradually become detached from this world. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Next darshan, 8:15. Okay, moving along. Text 19. No. 18, I'm sorry. Naiva tasya kane kritenartho na kritene hakaschana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid arta vipashriyaha. A self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. Purport: a self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform. Would you like to sit, Mataji? Hello, Hare Krishna? No, she's in the wrong road. A self-realized man is no longer obliged to perform any prescribed duties, save and except activities in Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is not inactivity either, as will be explained in the following verses. A Krishna-conscious man does not take shelter of any person, man or demigod. Whatever he does in Krishna consciousness is sufficient in the discharge of his obligation. So there's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam describing how we come into this world as debtors. I mean, after all, just to live in this world, what do we need? We need the sun, we need water, we need food, right? So many necessities. Where do they come from? They come from the gods. They come from higher powers. we're now facing a crisis now of this climate change. Human beings have disrupted the careful balance in the environment. I mean, everyone knows it. I've been here for 30 years. We've never had a winter like this. And in some places in Australia, it's so hot, the bats are dying in the sky and falling on the ground. Yeah. And then they had drought, and super flood. 300,000 cattle died in the flood. This is what's going on in different, and at the poles, it's more extreme. Why is that? Because we're just, we're completely oblivious to the careful balance of things. We're burning all these fossil fuels and making, the coal and everything. It's all just money. If you worship mammon, that's money, as the ultimate good, then everything else goes by the wayside. I mean, the young people are freaking out. People who are in the 70s, well, we won't see it, I mean, even if it's 30 years from now, we'll all be gone. So why don't we just enjoy as much as possible? But the people who are young say, wait a minute, you're just selling out our future. There's not going to be any world left. I mean, it's a perfect analogy to what happens on an individual level. Because on an individual level, if one is in a hedonist mood, doesn't have any reference to the Bhagavad Gita, couldn't care less, he just said, well, how can I make it in this world? Either the next week, how can I enjoy, or maybe I'll plan and make I'll be one of the lucky ones who's in the top 1% or 1/10 of 1%. Not worrying about the ramifications, both in one's own life and in life in general. There's a tremendous obliviousness. This is called the mode of ignorance. The mode of ignorance means, how can I enjoy now? The heck with tomorrow. Intoxication and criminality, and how much can I sleep? I mean, here, we live in a party town here, and Sunday morning, nobody's out, From the long Saturday night, it used to be I'd be getting up to go to Mangalartik at 4, and they'd just be ending the parties, all around the thing, and they'd be crashing. And I would come back at 7, especially on Sunday, not a soul, very quiet, chant nicely. But that's gross mode of ignorance. It means that you have no idea what this human form of life is all about. Nirdeha madhyam, Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, this is the Bhagavad Gita, but in the Uddhava Gita, in the Bhagavad Purana, 11th canto, he expands on many of the same themes. So he has this beautiful verse where he's enjoining us, he's appealing to us. He says, Nirdeha madhyam sulabam sudurlabam klavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam. Mayanukulyena nabhasvateritam puman bhavam dim nataretsa atmaha. Atmaha means you're killing your soul. You can't kill it, but you can bury it for a long time. So he says, my dear Uddhava, he's speaking to all of us, Nirdeham, the human body, nada deha, is like a great boat, a wonderfully constructed boat, to take us across, to take the soul across the ocean of birth and death. So, Nirdehamadhyam, Sulabam, Sudurlabam. It's a play on words, because these are opposite words. Sulabam and Sudurlabam. Sulabam means easily attained. Sudurlabam means very difficult to attain. So how can something be both? Not possible. So they have to understand the subtle meaning. So Sulabam means that every soul eventually comes up to the human form. No matter, you may be a little worm crawling around in the garden here, but eventually, if you're in this garden, you're fortunate because you're here the whole day. But in any worm, eventually the soul will come up, and reach the human form. It may take hundreds of years, about 1,000 of years, but you come eventually. Everyone gets a human form. But Sudurlabam, because just look around us. Yes, there's over 7 billion human beings now on the planet, but that's nothing compared to all the insects and the bacteria and everything else. Trillions and trillions and trillions. They're all spirit souls, just like us. But they're all covered, many of them much more. But so we're very fortunate to be in the human form of life. And so this verse is saying, don't waste it. Cash in the lottery ticket. So it is a boat to take us across the ocean of birth and death. But it's a sailboat. It needs a wind. So then he says, plavam sukalpam guru karnada. Plavam means boat. Very nicely constructed. But you need a captain. The captain is the preceptor, the spiritual, what Prabhupada says, the spiritual master, guru. Guru Karnadara. Karnadara means the captain. That's the word. I don't know exactly why, but there it is, Karnadara. But then you need the favorable winds. Where are the favorable winds? Krishna says, I'm providing the favorable winds in the form of the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita. Mayanu Kulyena. Anukulyena means favorable. Nabhasvitedam, favorable winds. So with all of these facilities, the perfect boat, the qualified captain, and Krishna himself in the favorable winds, Puman Bhavabdim Nataret Sa Atmaha. That human being who doesn't cross over the ocean of birth and death is committing spiritual suicide. So he's saying, yeah, Atmaha. It's a tremendous waste. Now we have what is it about the human form? Obviously it's the intelligence, it's the big brain. Otherwise we have our animal propensities. We eat, we sleep, we mate, we fight. Just like, but that doesn't make us human. That's the vestige of our animal lives. What makes us human is this intelligence by which we can understand the philosophy and act on it so that we can benefit ourselves and others. So this is throughout the Vedas, everyone knows this, right? Did you learn this as a child? Asato ma sadgamaya, tamasi ma jyotirgama, mrityum ma amitam gamaya, right? Don't stay in the darkness. Actually, ma means me here. They say that, my Lord, take me from darkness to light, from death to immortality, from the temporary to the eternal. Give him one of these stands. You need a stand so you don't have to hold the book. Is that it? Yeah, there you go. You can take it with you. There you go. So, it's a call. And so Krishna is saying here, we just read, Agayor indriyaramo mogang partasajivati. To live just for the senses is to waste the human form of life. Now, someone who has already come to the point of being Krishna conscious, atma-rati, means to take pleasure in serving God and thinking of God and being God conscious, then he doesn't have a material duties to perform. All his duties are on the spiritual side. Just like if you're a devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, he took sannyas, meaning that full renunciation. But sannyas has so many duties to perform there. He accepted them, to try to give Krishna consciousness to others. He came to America at age 69, not in the best of health, had 2 heart attacks on the way there. He thought if he had a third one, he would have perished. Krishna comes in a dream to him and is rowing the boat, says, just don't worry, I'm taking care of you. Comes to America. Why? He was nicely sitting in Vrindavan chanting Hare Krishna by the bank of the Yamuna in one of the oldest temples, Radha-Damodar. But he had the injunction, the mission from his spiritual master to teach in English this Bhagavad Gita and the science of Krishna. And he had Lord Chaitanya's mission. Priti Vidyayachayat Nadagadi Gram. In every town and village on the surface of this earth, the name of Krishna and my name will be chanted. So how's that going to happen unless the followers do it? So Prabhupada took on, he said, do or die. Very brave, to come like, good grief. If we fly off somewhere, we make sure we know we've got a hotel at the other end, who's going to pick us up, and we have a return ticket. Prabhupada just came to America. Anyway, he performed the sacrifice. He accepted that duty as a sannyasi. But all the time, he was atmarati. He was completely satisfied in enjoying his relationship with the Supreme Soul, Krishna. He was never alone, even though he looked like he was alone, living here and living there. But he said, I always had Krishna with me. I never felt alone. We're never actually alone, but we feel alone because we've forgotten our dearest friend. So Bhakti Yoga, beginning with this Bhagavad Gita, it reintroduces us to our dear friend, who, if we can just accept that and try to cultivate it, we can feel happy in any circumstance and overcome the greatest difficulty in this world, which is fear. We're always on the edge here. We forget, isn't it? We forget. We're on a fault. When I moved here, I studied. Southern California is subjected to earthquakes, right? We know that. But it works on its own time. You never know when it's going to hit. We had one here. It was 94. You were here at the time. It wasn't so powerful here. It was up in Joshua Tree, really powerful. But actually we had a different set of chandeliers, but they were swaying, and we felt like we were on a surfboard while standing on the sidewalk. Yeah. It's a little disconcerting, It didn't get much more beyond that, luckily, but it can get really bad. And then the tsunami, may come. They're going to have, the snow in SanDiego tonight or tomorrow night. Yeah, in the hills, but still in San Diego County. I never heard that before. Snow in SanDiego. Things are changing. So you never know what's going to happen. And the whole thing is you don't know. They're sitting in paradise. So Northern California, Paradise Town. You know how it happened. Just incinerated. People die. It was horrible. So that's the material world. Danger at every step. But if we take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, we can get out of this world which is meant for danger. Samashita ye padapallavam. Again the boat. This time the boat is not the human body, but Krishna's lotus feet. Samashita ye padapallavam. Mahatpadam punyayasho marari. Bhavambudi vatsapadam param padam 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 yadvipadam ateshan. You can just hear the poetry. You don't even understand the language. Samashita, take full shelter of Padapallavaplavam, the lotus feet, the boat of the lotus feet of Krishna. Padapallavaplavam. Mahatpadam, where the whole universe rests, and where all the Mahatmas also stay at Krishna's lotus feet. Punyayasha, just by glorifying Krishna, you amass pious credits. Punyayasha, Murari, is the name for Krishna. There's a Bhavambudhiya Vatsapadam. Bhava is a word that has come to mean birth and death. But the basic meaning is change. That's what this world is all about. It's never steady. It's always changing. Asat. So it's an ocean of change. Just when you think you have it together, you find out, hey, I'm getting older? I thought I had it together. I was only 35, 40. You mean I got to turn 50, 60? And said, what do you mean? But that's what bhava means. It means birth and death, old age. So the ocean of birth and death, it shrinks down to the little puddle in the hoofprint of a calf. You can just step over it if you're on a boat of Krishna's lotus feet. So, param padam, because you're in the supreme abode already. Not in this abode where padam padam yad vipadam. There's danger, vipadam, at every step, padam padam. Not for them. So we should try to join that safe haven at Krishna's lotus feet. But it has to go step by step. Okay. So, any questions or comments on any of these points? Hare Krishna. Okay, so what did we read? 18? We did, didn't we? Yeah. Okay, so let's read a little bit from Krishna. All right, so let me put the marker at the right spot. I had it. There it is. Okay. So we'll begin with 19 tomorrow. Okay. Now our other main book, although actually the first of the main books is Srimad Bhagavad Purana. And Srila Prabhupada, the essence of the Srimad Bhagavad Purana is the 10th canto, describing the actual activities of Krishna on the earth, the summum bonum. So we've been reading that a little bit. Let's see where we are here. Good if I got in the right book. Okay, here's a great chapter. This chapter is called Subduing Kali. So what happened is that there was this big snake who had 100 hoods, and he lived in the Ramanaka Island, which is near Fiji, and he lived there with a lot of other snakes. And Garuda would come, and Krishna's personal carrier, and his food is snakes, so he would come there and eat the snakes. So there was a lot of distress on the island. So finally they kind of established a truce, and they said, okay, we'll offer you one snake every Saturday or something, but just don't create havoc like this. So that was going on, but then Kali objected there and had a big fight with this Garuda, and Garuda was going to smash him, He's very powerful. So Kaliya fled Ramanak Island and came to the Yamuna in Vrindavan. Why? Because Garuda had been cursed there. There was this big Muni named Sabri Muni. He used to meditate under the water. And he made friends with the fish. He had alliances with them. And Garuda would come and eat them sometimes, so he got very angry. And one time Garuda came and ate one of the leaders of the fish, and Sabri Muni cursed Garuda, if you come again, then you'll die. And he was so powerful a yogi that he took it seriously. So Kaliya knew that he was safe from Garuda in that particular lake in the Yamuna, so he took residence here. But he's got 100 hoods, and he's a python, and so he's exuding all this poison, so the poison was affecting all of Vrindavan. Even the birds would fly over there, the fumes, they would fall down dead in there, and the trees were dying, So actually it came that Krishna came to the bank of the Yamuna with his friends, and they drank some of the water. They all died, and he brought them back to life, because he's so, he's God. But he figured, well, we got to clear off this Kaliya from here. So so he jumps into the water and challenges Kaliya, and Kaliya, there's this fight going on. Of course, Krishna is God, so he wins. And eventually, but what happens is that he allows himself to be enwrapped in the coils of Kaliya. So he just has this, he looks like just a delicate, young, beautiful boy, So there were these ill omens came, and all of the residents of Vrindavan and the cows and the calves, they all came to the bank of the Yamuna, and they saw Krishna wrapped in the coils of Kaliya, and they thought he's a goner. He's sure, how can you survive that? They didn't know he's God. They just loved him. So there was all this lamenting and gnashing of teeth and rending of clothes on the bank of the Yamuna. His mother wanted to go in, and she had to be restrained. Balaram knew it was no danger, so he was just smiling. But everyone was in tremendous anxiety for 2 hours, it describes, until finally Krishna saw, okay, that's enough. And he broke out of the coils, and he expanded himself, and Kaliya let him go. And he jumped up on the hoods, and he started dancing. He started his dancing on the hood and punishing him with his kathak dancing. Have you ever seen that? Like, powerful. So gradually, Kaliya, with his 100 main hoods, he was beaten down, And the demigods, they were playing drums and putting flowers down, and all of the residents were amazed, and celebrating. And so Kaliya was about to expire. He was exuding all kinds of waste and everything. And his wives came forward and prayed for his release, and beautiful prayers. And Krishna said, okay, we'll leave it at this. We won't kill Kali, but you have to get out of the Yamuna. Don't worry about Garuda. I've marked your heads with my footprints, and he won't bother you anymore. So you can go back to Ramanak Island, but you can't stay here because you're poisoning it. So Kali was very thankful. His wives were very thankful. They gave him all kinds of gifts. I think that's when he got the Kaustubha gem. And so that's the basis of the story. So what we're gonna read is, and the Nagapatnis, they have these beautiful prayers, but we'll read the next chapter, which is kind of short. We can maybe read it in a few minutes here, or part of it. Yes. Yeah. Him. No, just Kaliya. Kaliya was blessed. Did I say python? Yeah, he was a poisonous snake. No, he was a cobra. He was the cobra. Yeah, python just sit. That was a gasra. Yes, amazing prayers. No. They were able to speak like that, but they had the body, so he had that mood. But then when he was chastised and he came out of it, then he also offered prayers, and he was very different. He actually became a devotee. Kali. All right, I'm just going to read a few seconds here of this extinguishing the forest fire. So it goes from the Kaliya chapter. After hearing the chastisement of Kaliya, King Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva as to why Kaliya left his beautiful land and why Garuda was so antagonistic to him. Well, I mentioned that, so I'm going to start from the part where he comes out. I told you this part already. And then at a certain point. Okay, when Krishna finally came out of the Kaliya's lake, he was seen by all his friends and relatives on the bank of the Yamuna. Now, it's just like he came back from the dead, so they were overjoyed. He appeared before them nicely decorated, smeared all over with chandan pulp, that's sandalwood, bedecked with valuable jewels and stones, and almost completely covered with gold. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the cowherd boys and men, the gopis, Mother Yashoda, King Nanda, and all the cows and calves, saw Krishna coming from the Yamuna, and it was as though they had recovered their very lives. When a person regains his life, naturally he becomes absorbed in pleasure and joyfulness. They each in turn pressed Krishna to their chests, and thus they felt a great relief. Mother Yashoda, Mother Rohini, King Nanda, and the cowherd men became so happy that as they embraced Krishna, they thought that they had achieved their ultimate goal of life. Balaram also embraced Krishna, but he was laughing, because when everyone else had been so overwhelmed with anxiety, he had known that what would happen to Krishna, basically nothing. All the trees on the bank of the Yamuna, along with all the cows, bulls, and calves, were full of pleasure because of Krishna's appearance there. The Brahmin inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately came with their wives to congratulate Krishna and his family members. And because Brahmins are considered to be the spiritual masters of society, they offered their blessings to Krishna and his family on account of Krishna's release. They also asked Nanda to give them some charity on that occasion, and Nanda was so pleased that he gave many cows and much gold to the Brahmins. When Nanda was thus engaged, Mother Yashoda simply embraced Krishna and made him sit on her lap while she shed tears continuously. This is her standard response. Since it was almost night and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the cows and calves, were very tired, they decided to take their rest on the river bank. In the middle of the night, while they were taking rest, there was suddenly a great forest fire, and it quickly appeared that the fire would soon devour all the inhabitants of Vrindavan. As soon as they felt the heat of the fire, they immediately took shelter of Krishna, although he was playing just like their child. He was actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They began to say, "Our dear Krishna, O Supreme Lord, our dear Balaram, reservoir of all strength, please try to save us from this all-devouring and devastating fire. We have no shelter other than you. This devastating fire will swallow us all." Thus they prayed to Krishna, saying that they couldn't take any shelter other than his lotus feet. Lord Krishna, being compassionate upon his own townspeople, immediately swallowed up the whole forest fire and saved them. This was not impossible for Krishna because he is unlimited. He has unlimited power to do anything he desires. Thus ends the Bhagavad purport of 17th chapter of Krishna, extinguishing the forest fire. And it actually happens again a chapter later, a couple of chapters later. But we're going to read about Pralambasura tomorrow, because that's another nice, beautiful chapter describing how Krishna played and how he killed this, Balaram killed this demon named Pralambasura. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.